Togo, Ferdinand AYITE and Isidore KOUWONOU judged by the Court of Appeal of Lomé on Thursday, the 11th of May. Another chapter of the soap opera hunt for critical journalists in Togo, namely Ferdinand AYITE and Isidore KOUWONOU forced to flee their country, will probably open next week. The Lomé Court of Appeal sent a summons to the lawyers of the two journalists who are summoned to appear before that court on Thursday, the 11th of May, 2023. It should be recalled that Ferdinand AYITE and Isidore KOUWONOU, respectively Director of Publication and Editor-in-Chief of the Togolese bi-weekly investigative magazine L'Alternative, have already been sentenced by the Court of First Instance in Lomé, in an expedited trial on the 15th of March, to 303 years in prison for outrage against representatives of public authority, dissemination of fake news, etc. An arrest warrant has been issued against them, and it was on a complaint by two ministers of the Togolese government, namely that of Commerce, Industry and Local Consumption, Kodjo Adedze, and his colleague in charge of Justice, Pius Kokouvi Agbetomey, that the two journalists were convicted of defamation. Lomé, the lawyer for the two journalists, has appealed this unique decision of the Lomé Court of First Instance, which nails the freedom of the press. At first, the clerk refused to receive the appeal formulated by the lawyer. The latter had to threaten to take a bailiff before the appeal was accepted. Appealing a court decision is an elementary right for the accused or defendants. But in this case, and since there is a clear desire to harm journalists and trample on the freedom of the press, there has been an attempt to deny this basic right to the convicted. Today, the two journalists are forced into exile, far from their families, relatives, without jobs. The newspaper stopped publishing, the editorial office is unemployed. So a critical voice was forced, even though the Minister of Communications and Media, in a meeting with professional press organizations a few days after the condemnation of the two journalists, tried to convince the public that despite this situation, there is freedom to press on Togo. Luckily he has only managed to convince himself and the system he works for. As everyone knows, free press is a lure in this country run for over 50 years by one family, Nasing. This the 3rd of May, the international community celebrates the World Press Freedom Day. An opportunity to shine the spotlight again on Togo, where the country's authorities are reactive to all criticism, especially those of the independent press who struggle under really difficult conditions to inform the public. Actually a shame for this so-called democratic country. On the spot in Lomé, in the Chancellor's offices, the diplomats did not take off with regard to this decision, which affects the alternative, which still dared to put a finger on the corruption system in the country in any case. We await the decision of the Court of Appeal of Lomé on the 11th of May.